to the Essential Films podcast, this week in film history, March 11th through March 17th. March 12th, 1879, German silent film actor Alfred Abel was born in Leipzig, Germany. Leipzig appeared in a number of Fritz Lang films, including Metropolis in 1927 and Dr. Mabuse the Gambler in 1922. March 16, 1889, Austrian actor Friedrich Fehr was born. Fehr was most well known for his role as Francis in Robert Wine's The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. March 15, 1893, American film producer Arthur Hornblow Jr. was born in New York, New York. He was nominated for an Academy Award as a producer for Best Picture for Witness for the Prosecution in 1957. Also producer on films such as The Asphalt Jungle, Gaslight, Oklahoma, Ruggles of Red Gap, and Midnight. March 11, 1898, silent film star Dorothy Gish is born in Massillon, Ohio. Known for her performances alongside her famous sister Lillian in D.W. Griffith's Orphans of the Storm, An Unseen Enemy, Judith of Bethulia, and Hearts of the World. Her last credited appearance was in Otto Preminger's The Cardinal in 1963. March 13, 1898, director Henry Hathaway was born. Hathaway was an Oscar-nominated director for The Lives of the Bengal Lancer. He also is known for directing films such as True Grit, How the West Was Won, Niagara, and Kiss of Death. March 17, 1901, composer Alfred Newman was born in New Haven, Connecticut. Newman is a 45-time Academy Award nominee and 9-time winner for films such as The Prisoner of Zenda, Wuthering Heights, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Mark of Zorro, How Green Was My Valley, The Black Swan, The Song of Bernadette, All About Eve, Love is a Many-Splendored Thing, Anastasia, The King and I, South Pacific, How the West Was Won, The Greatest Story Ever Told, Camelot, and Airport. His most lasting work, however, is the 20th Century Fox fanfare that audiences still hear to this very day. March 17, 1906, German actress Brigitte Helm was born in Berlin, Germany, best known for her role as Maria and the Machine Woman from Fritz Lang's Metropolis. March 16, 1908, American screenwriter and director Robert Rossen was born in New York City. A 5-time Oscar nominee for The Hustler as producer, writer, and director, and All the King's Men as writer and director. Also known for his work on The Roaring Twenties, The Strange Love of Martha Ivers, Lilith, Marked Woman, and The Sea Wolf. March 16, 1916, Mercedes McCambridge is born in Joliet, Illinois. McCambridge won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her work in All the King's Men. She also provided the voice of the demon possessing Regan's soul in The Exorcist. Other notable films include Touch of Evil, Johnny Guitar, Giant, Cimarron, and Suddenly Last Summer. March 11, 1925, Buster Keaton's classic Seven Chances was released. In this comedy, a young man played by Keaton finds out he will inherit a small fortune. The only catch is he must be married by 7 p.m. to collect. A series of hilarious skits ensue as he tries to find a suitable and willing bride. March 11, 1933, Lloyd Bacon's classic musical 42nd Street was released in theaters. Starring Warner Baxter, Ruby Keeler, Dick Powell, and Ginger Rogers, with choreography by Busby Berkeley. A major box office success, the film was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Sound. This Depression-era musical takes us backstage to Pretty Lady, the musical within a musical, and the struggles of its producers to get it ready in time for opening night. Exploring a series of different plot lines, including an overstressed director's heart problems, the casting couch of financiers, naive newcomers, and gangsters putting the pressure on producers, featuring songs You're Getting to Be a Habit with Me, Shuffle Off the Buffalo, and of course 42nd Street. March 16, 1934, the 6th Annual Academy Awards take place. Cavalcade is nominated for 4 Oscars and wins 3: Outstanding Production, Best Director for Frank Lloyd, and Best Art Direction. Charles Laughton won Best Actor for The Private Life of Henry VIII. Katharine Hepburn won Best Actress for Morning Glory. Other Best Picture nominees include 42nd Street, A Farewell to Arms, I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang, Lady for a Day, Little Women, She Done Him Wrong, Smilin' Through, State Fair, and The Private Life of Henry VIII. March 5, 1935, Busby Berkeley's Gold Diggers of 1935 was released in theaters, starring Dick Powell, Adolphe Menjou, Gloria Stewart, Alice Brady, and Hugh Herbert. The film won the Academy Award for Best Song, Lullaby of Broadway. March 13, 1942, Universal Pictures' The Ghost of Frankenstein was released. Directed by Earl C. Kenton and starring Lon Chaney Jr. as the monster, Cedric Hardwicke, Ralph Bellamy, Lionel Atwill, and Bela Lugosi as Igor. This is the 10th film of the famous Universal Monsters run and the 4th Frankenstein film of the series.
Father was Frankenstein.
March 15, 1945. The 17th Academy Awards take place. Going My Way is nominated for 10 Oscars and wins 7: Best Motion Picture, Best Director for Leo McCarey, Best Actor for Bing Crosby, Best Supporting Actor for Barry Fitzgerald, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Story, Best Original Song for Swinging on a Star. Ingrid Bergman wins Best Actress for Gaslight. Ethel Barrymore wins Best Supporting Actress for None But the Lonely Heart. Other Best Picture nominees include Double Indemnity, Gaslight, Since You Went Away, and Wilson. March 14, 1946. Charles Vidor's noir classic Gilda premieres in New York City, featuring a star-making performance by Rita Hayworth and starring Glenn Ford and George McCready. When Ford's Johnny Farrell arrives in Buenos Aires, Argentina, he hits the casinos and cheats them out of their money. He crosses one casino owner too many when he attempts to swindle the blackjack table at Ballin Munson's joint. However, Johnny is a quick thinker and manages to talk Munson into hiring him. All is well until one day Munson comes back from a trip with a new wife, Gilda. The only trouble, Johnny and Gilda know each other very intimately. The film was one of the first to compete at the first ever Cannes Film Festival and was nominated for a Grand Jury Prize. March 13, 1947. The 19th Academy Awards take place. The Best Years of Our Lives leads with 8 Oscar nominations and wins 7. Best Motion Picture, Best Director for William Wyler, Best Actor for Frederick March, Best Supporting Actor for Harold Russell, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Dramatic or Comedy Score, Best Film Editing, and an honorary award for Harold Russell. Olivia de Havilland won Best Actress for To Each His Own. Anne Baxter won Best Supporting Actress for The Razor's Edge. Other Best Picture nominees that year included Henry V, It's a Wonderful Life, The Razor's Edge, and The Yearling. March 11, 1956. Laurence Olivier's adaptation of Shakespeare's Richard III was released in the United States, starring Laurence Olivier, Cedric Hardwicke, Nicholas Hannon, John Gielgud, and Ralph Richardson. Olivier received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor for his portrayal of the title character. March 13, 1956, John Ford's The Searchers was released. My personal favorite John Ford and John Wayne collaboration. Wayne plays Ethan Edwards, an obviously anti-Indian Civil War veteran that dedicates years of his life to hunt down the pack of Indians that killed his family and abducted his young niece. But are his priorities in order? Check out episode 6 of the Essential Films podcast, where Mark and I went in depth on The Searchers. On that show, we discussed the insane fact that the Academy Awards ignored the film, Patrick Wayne's terrible acting, how we first experienced The Searchers, the stunning cinematography, the true story that inspired the film, the magnificent opening and closing shots, Ethan and Martha's secret love, John Ford's influence on the likes of Lucas, Scorsese, Bogdanovich, Tarantino, and Milius, how Ethan and Scar, the villain of the film, are mirror images of each other, how we feel that this is John Wayne's greatest performance, and how Ethan Edwards is an anti-hero. March 16, 1960. Jean-Luc Godard's A Bout de Souffle, or Breathless, is released in France. Written by François Truffaut and starring Jean-Paul Belmondo, Jean Seberg, and Daniel Boulanger. Nominated for a BAFTA for Best Foreign Actress for Jean Seberg, one of the essential French New Wave films. The great film critic Roger Ebert once said that as modern audiences flocked to the films of Quentin Tarantino, Godard's audiences flocked to see him in the 1960s. Long before Pulp Fiction shook the cinema world in 1994, films like Godard's Breathless were influencing audiences and future filmmakers worldwide. While the story of a car thief trying to convince his girlfriend to live with him in Italy after he kills a police officer is interesting, the main reason one watches Breathless all boils down to one word: style. A big part of the French New Wave was that filmmakers of the movement were dissatisfied with what they felt had been stagnant filmmaking. Being a visual medium, Godard and his contemporaries pushed the camera into places, angles, and shots it had never been before. Most, if not all, of the film is shot handheld, and the results are fascinating, even by 2018 standards. March 11, 1964. Peter Glenville's adaptation of Beckett was released in theaters, starring Richard Burton, Peter O'Toole, John Gielgud. King Henry II of England is at odds with his close friend, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Becket. When Becket defies Henry's orders in his battle against the Church, a major rift between the two emerges, leading to an eventual showdown of wills. Nominated for 12 Academy Awards, winning only one, Best Writing Screenplay, based on material from another medium. March 12, 1971, Robert Wise's adaptation of Michael Crichton's The Andromeda Strain is released. With a screenplay from Nelson Gidding based on The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton, starring Arthur Hill, James Olsen, Kate Reed, David Wayne, Paula Kelly, George Mitchell. Hours after a satellite returns to Earth, the residents of a small town in New Mexico are all found dead. The U.S. government declares a state of emergency as it sends a team of top scientists to investigate. Deducing that it was an alien virus, the scientists take samples to a highly secure quarantine laboratory to see if they can find any answers. Additionally, an old drunk and a baby have survived the new deadly plague, which mystifies our protagonists, but they soon realize that the virus has already mutated and could be even deadlier than previously imagined. Ranked number 82 in the Essential Films 100 Essential Sci-Fi Films.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
March 15, 1972, Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather premieres in New York City. Based on the book by Mario Puzo and starring Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, James Caan, Richard Castellano, Robert Duvall, Sterling Hayden, John Marley, Richard Conte, Talia Shire, and Diane Keaton. Winner of 3 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Brando, and Best Adapted Screenplay. Check out the Essential Films podcast episode number 3 for a full discussion on the film. Vito Corleone is the aging don of the Corleone family, a local New York mob. His son Michael, who has never been a part of the family business, has just returned from World War II for his sister's wedding. After Don Corleone refuses to get involved in drug trafficking, he gets gunned down by his rivals. Slowly, Michael assumes more and more responsibility in the family, and he is soon involved in a violent mob war with the rest of the 5 families. Michael's descent into organized crime is not about greed and power, though it eventually ends up this way, especially in the sequel, but about trying to protect his family. Michael rejects the lifestyle in the beginning of the film, but after his father is shot, his love for his family takes over. The focus on family is something that resonates throughout the Godfather series. Its success paved the way for other major entries into the gangster canon, and its influence can be seen in everything from Goodfellas to The Sopranos. The Godfather's impact on pop culture cannot be understated. The film was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, winning 3, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Marlon Brando, who refused the award. It's the second greatest film of all time, according to the American Film Institute, right under Citizen Kane, which isn't a bad spot to be in. It broke box office records and was the highest-grossing film of 1972, and for a short time was the highest-grossing film of all time until Jaws was unleashed upon the world in 1975. To this day it is, adjusted for ticket price inflation, number 25 on the highest-grossing films of all time. The film is an all-time cinematic classic, pop culture legend, and it's a movie that everyone should experience. It is a truly flawless, epic masterpiece without equal. March 13, 1987, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2, a follow-up to his 1981 cult horror film Evil Dead, releases in theaters. with a screenplay by Sam Raimi and Scott Spiegel, starring Bruce Campbell, Sarah Berry, Dan Hicks, Cassie Wesley, Richard Daumier. The sequel to the original Evil Dead came about after horror master Stephen King, being a fan of the first film, convinced legendary producer Dino De Laurentiis to fund the follow-up. Initially, Raimi had the idea for Ash to be sucked into a time portal and have misadventures in medieval times. This was scrapped, however, when the production budget, though larger than the first film, was not enough for what Raimi believed to be necessary for a period piece. So, they scrapped that plan and used it for the third film in the series, Army of Darkness. Raimi set about crafting a remake of his first film, this time going for more comedy and slapstick, using the Three Stooges as an inspiration, instead of straight-up horror film. The result is one of the messiest mashups of laughs and gore ever produced. The film's expanded budget, while still relatively small, improved much of the special effects and makeup, which was handled by future Walking Dead and Academy Award-winning makeup artist Greg Nicotero. Plus, much of the Evil Dead Army of Darkness lore starts in this film. The hammy acting, the slapstick, the one-liners, the chainsaw hand, an essential for fans of 80s horror cinema. Ranked number 20 on our 100 Essential Horror Films.
Where am I? Some anonymous motel room.
March 16th, 2001. Christopher Nolan's Memento was released in limited theaters. Written by Nolan and his brother Jonathan, and starring Guy Pearce, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Joe Pantoliano. Nominated for 2 Academy Awards, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Film Editing. In this modern noir, Leonard has a very peculiar problem. Due to an attack by a home invader, he no longer has a short-term memory, meaning every few minutes he has no idea where he is, who he's with, or how he got there. The last thing he remembers is his wife dying. Now he's on a mission to hunt down and kill his wife's killer, following a series of clues he's tattooed on his body so he won't forget them. This top thriller kicked off a spectacular career for Christopher Nolan, who went on to helm films such as The Prestige, Inception, Dunkirk, Interstellar, and of course the Dark Knight trilogy.
Good evening, London.
March 17th, 2006. James McTeague's adaptation of Alan Moore and David Lloyd's graphic novel V for Vendetta was released in theaters. With a screenplay adapted by the Wachowski siblings of The Matrix fame, and starring Hugo Weaving in the title role, Natalie Portman, Stephen Fry, and John Hurt. In a near-future dystopian England, the vigilante terrorist known as V administers his brand of theatrical revenge against the fascist British government. Kidnapping and converting Evie, played by Portman, along the way, V thinks of himself as a freedom fighter wearing a Guy Fawkes mask, both as a symbol of the fight against tyranny and to disguise his disfigured face. His ultimate plan, much like Fawkes' centuries before, is to blow up Parliament and give the government a 5th of November that shall never, ever be forgot. That was This Week in Film History. Please visit The Essential Films at essentialfilmspodcast.com. Subscribe to the Essential Films Podcast on iTunes. Email us at essentialfilmspodcast@gmail.com. Follow The Essential Films on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Essential Films. Follow us on Instagram at Essential Films Podcast. And subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Adolfo J. Acosta. Thank you for listening.